you again, Elizabeth. I'm really pleased and honored that you asked me to talk about mental health resources on this Mental Health Month. I'm really pleased that so many people have joined us for this conversation today, and I want to thank everyone for caring enough about mental health resources in the community to join in this conversation. I did want to let everyone know in our audience today that I'm not here representing any agency, organization, entity, business, or any other individual. I'm here today to share my experience with folks and hopefully learn some about their experiences as well in terms of resources for mental health issues in the community. I did want to share a couple of my beliefs with you today to kind of give you an idea of where I'm coming from. I have a fundamental belief that mental health is important. I also believe that mental health is not a given. Just like any other type of serious illness, mental health can come into a person's life anytime, any day, anywhere. I wanted to share with the audience as well a poem that I wrote when I was working with some students in a university setting. And at that time, I wrote the poem for a different reason. What was happening was I was having so many students in the mental health field sharing with me that they didn't feel that they wanted to work with someone who had this issue or someone who had that issue. And it was from that that this poem emerged. And when I thought about this presentation today, I thought about this poem is actually important in terms of what we're talking about today because it addresses the multiple identities that individuals present with and that as human beings we have. And so I'd like to share it with you. And it goes, Dr. Robinson, please don't tell me that I have to work with, understand, assess, diagnose, and provide treatment for women, for I'm only going to work with men. For LGBTs, for I'm only going to work with heterosexuals. For people with disabilities, for I'm only going to work with people who are perceived to be perfect and flawless. People of a race that is different than mine, for I'm only going to work with people from my own race. People of a lower or higher SES than mine, for I'm only going to work with people from my own SES. People who have a different religious or spiritual belief system than mine, for I'm only going to work with people from my own religious or spiritual belief system. People with a different worldview, for I'm only going to work with people who share my worldview. People who are very much older or very much younger than me, for I'm only going to work with people of my own age. People from different regions of the United States, for I'm only going to work with people from my region of the United States. And people with international backgrounds, for I'm only going to work with people from the United States. And whatever you do, please, please don't tell me that I have to work with, understand, assess, diagnose, and provide treatment for people who have more than one of these identities. And my response is, okay, I won't tell you, but you tell me who is left. I believe this poem addresses the many, many identities that individuals present with, including mental illness in some cases, and kind of underscores the reason that we need many, many community resources to help individuals. Because often some of these identities are represented several or more within one individual who presents with a mental illness. I also wanted to share with you some of the latest numbers on prevalence of mental illness to kind of give you an idea. If you're not working in the field, specifically in a mental health organization, I wanted to make sure that you were aware of the how common mental illnesses actually are. So in the United States, and these are the latest figures I could find, SAMHSA just put out a report, and I took these figures from SAMHSA's report. The latest figures suggest that about 1 in 5 adult Americans experience any mental illness in the past year. And about 1 in 20, or close to 11 million American adults experience a serious mental illness in the past year. So we see that mental illnesses are quite common in the United States and actually throughout the world. The good news is that with proper diagnosis, treatment, and community support, folks who are diagnosed with a mental illness have a really good chance of living happy, well-adjusted, and productive lives outside of institutions, just as individuals diagnosed with other types of serious illnesses do. So when I was thinking about what to talk about in terms of community resources for mental health issues, I wanted to share with you some of what I've learned over the years working in a variety of different agencies, institutions, and organizations, and volunteer work as well, in terms of mental health resources in general. So these are some things to consider when we think about mental health resources. They tend to be fluid, fleeting, and the first to go. And what I mean by that is programs tend to change over time. So if there was a really good resource in one particular agency 5 years ago, it may not be there today or 10 years from now. Programs tend to have time-limited funding, and that plays directly into the fluidity of the programs. And unfortunately, in many cases, mental health programs tend to be the first to go when budget cuts are under consideration. So mental health resources in general are most effective when we have a community that really supports them and appreciates them, values and embraces them, or saves them from a really rough life and a premature demise. Much of this is going on behind the scenes with people scrambling to get grants, scrambling to keep funding going, scrambling to get support. And this is really important to know, to keep those community resources alive and well in one's community. So how can we get started? One of the first things that I've noticed when I talk with people about community resources is that they kind of flip directly into learned helplessness, and if those of you with a background in psychology, you're well familiar with this term. But basically, it's a position of I can't do anything about it, so I'm not even going to try, after having tried so many times. And I'd suggest that we've got to kind of put that aside and not automatically go there without even considering new and innovative approaches. A lot of our problems with community resources have been around for many years and could really benefit from new and innovative approaches. And some examples were the siloing issue that we hear that term bantered about from time to time. Another phrase that I hear from time to time is overworked and underpaid, so no time to network. And then networking, of course, isn't billable time. So, and networking I mentioned because networking is really important to keeping those community resources alive. We have to know that they're out there in order to keep them going. When getting started, use a positive approach, take a positive attitude. Know that even if you're one person, you really can make a difference in terms of community resources. One person can make a tremendous difference, and we'll talk about some examples later on. We actually have, in my opinion, community resource heroes all around us who are working really hard for the benefit of the community. Seek out and connect with the goodness of the people in your community. And that goes back to having that positive approach with a positive attitude. And find out who are the movers and shakers in your area. It's really pretty much common knowledge who is doing what. When people start asking around, there's going to be some names that pop up over and over again. And there's typically a handful of people who are really making a difference in their community. And others join in from time to time, but usually there's a really strong handful that keeps community resources in the forefront over time. talk to your help-oriented agencies, support groups, and organizations. That's a really good place to find out what's happening in the community. And volunteering is extremely important, too, in terms of helping those community resources stay alive, as well as getting the word out about different community resources. So once a person gets involved with really advocating to keep community resources alive, it's important to keep moving forward. Depending on the size of the community that a person lives in, there may be more or less resources, but humans are really pretty ingenious in many ways, and there's some kind of resources out there. If there's a problem out there, there's probably someone trying to address that problem in some kind of a way. Try not to personalize your experiences as you move forward in this journey. Very little is actually personal. If something negative happens, it might be directly related to a unique experience. And so just keep moving forward. Keep in your life those positive and hopeful individuals that can see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's so important when advocating for community resources. And oftentimes what we find is that there might be a little bit of complacency growing with people asking for more and more and more, and then finally just throwing up their hands that they're not going to get more, and so we're just not going to be able to do this. But what if people stepped back and said, if this was all we were ever going to have, what's the best that we could possibly do with this? And try an approach like that. There's a whole lot that can be done with very little if people were to take that different kind of an approach. Enlist the support from supervisors and CEOs. And this is incredibly important. Even if a supervisor will just let someone go to a community meeting that talks about different resources for an hour every week, that's going to make a huge difference in the lives of the people that that person serves. And if you can get also support from the CEO or the superintendent or whoever is actually running the organization, if they believe that community resources are important, then that trickles down to everyone else in the organization. And the last point on staying motivated is the importance of saying thank you. Thank you to the people who are really active in the community. Thank you to the mental health professionals in the community. And repeat this often. We have so many people who are working very, very hard to make positive things happen. And it's really important to let them know that we appreciate that so that they'll stay motivated to keep moving forward. Next, resist complacency, keep exploring. As I mentioned in the beginning, community resources, depending on the amount of support that they get from the community, they can kind of come and go. And so it's important to never believe that one knows all the resources that are out there. That's kind of a complacent kind of an approach. Keep exploring, keep your knowledge fresh and current, keep looking. Even if somebody wasn't helpful with community resources yesterday, they may have joined today. And so they're wanting to help, they're interested in helping, and they're just asking how they can help. Give away any new information about community resources the minute that you get it. The way that I do that is I send out emails all the time. If something is forwarded to me and I think that it's going to help people who are helping people, then it ends up in their box, in their mailbox, the minute I get it. And from doing that, the more I send out, then people send things to me, and so it's an automatic way to connect. Wherever you go, talk about resources that you're excited about because others might not know about them. Stay connected over time and keep moving forward. Something that might be a little uncomfortable for some folks is the statement there that we are responsible for the mental health services in our community or lack thereof. But actually, we are responsible for the mental health resources of our community or lack thereof. And Once we realize that, then we've got to not be complacent. We've got to move forward, and we've got to make the best of whatever it is that we have available. So let's talk about what types of assistance is out there. And I broke this down into basically three different areas. Individuals doing great things, local agencies doing great things, and national organizations doing great things. And the type of assistance varies from community to community, but it all starts with the people in that community. And I kind of put this up there to show you that when we all come to the table and start tossing around ideas, and really let those ideas come out without interrupting the flow, there's some really ingenious people in this field, really helpful individuals who have great ideas all the time. And so if we can keep that momentum moving forward, what ends up happening is we can agree, we can disagree, but then we can come to a consensus and the whole community benefits. In this particular community where I am now in San Antonio, Texas, we happen to have a vibrant and effective professional and lay communication system. A lot of the professionals work directly with advocates in the community, and we talk back and forth. And this discussion supports our efforts to increase awareness of mental health and mental health-related issues. We have a lot of people, both professionals and advocates in the community, who donate their time to help raise awareness and provide education in the community. We have a few people in the community who have very large email distribution lists, and everybody knows who they are. And when I say that, it sounds like I'm coming from a small town, but actually we have close to 2 million people here, and yet everybody knows who these people are. And if we want something sent out on the distribution list, we just send it to them, and they send it out to the whole community. So it's really, when we talk about individuals doing great things, we have a great potential in each and every one of us that I believe needs to be utilized and tapped and appreciated. The question is, how can I help more instead of some other type of approach to this? But how can I help more? If we don't have what we need in our community, how can we help more to make that happen in our community? So we talked about individuals doing great things. I also wanted to share with you some of the local agencies and organizations that are doing great things here. And I'm sharing these with you to see if at the end perhaps you can let me know if you've got something like this going on in your area. I'd love to hear about it. And if you don't, then I can connect you with the individuals who are running these wonderful community resources, and maybe you can start something in your area if you wanted to. One of the things that happens routinely here in San Antonio are an incredible amount of free workshops and seminars, and we have a lot of hospitals, we have a lot of organizations, a lot of agencies, and the vast majority of them put on these free workshops and seminars to keep the community educated. We also have something in San Antonio called the Mental Health Task Force of Bexar County, and San Antonio is in Bexar County. And this is a meeting that attracts between 80 and 120 professionals and other individuals as well, anyone who's interested in learning, every month without the offer of CEUs. It's an organization, a nonprofit organization that provides a forum for best practices. So what are you doing that's really beneficial? And let's get that information out to the community. This task force also, if there's a gap in services in the community, this task force attempts to bring in panelists who can address that gap and what's being done about that gap. It's a very proactive, forward-thinking and moving kind of a task force. It's been around for several years, actually, and it just keeps growing and growing. We also have what's called a network of care for behavioral health, and this has been around since 2006. It's a community-based website that anyone can get on, and they can find on their videos and different PowerPoints and different trainings that are going on in the area. If they want to, and this is one of the neatest things about this network of care for behavioral health, if they want to create their own file, for example, let's say they get diagnosed with something and they want to create a file that lists all the medications and the different doctors and who's treating them and who's helpful and what resources benefit them, they can actually go in there and create a confidential file that would be very similar to a file that they might have at the doctor's office or at the psychologist's office, but they can create their own file and track their own progress. And that's a really big benefit to the network of care. Of course, we have a United Way, which is a national organization, but I listed it under local agencies and organizations because we have something here called Bare Necessities in Bexar County. And Bare Necessities is something that is offered through the United Way, primarily for nonprofit agencies. But an individual from an organization can go in there and get specialized training, and then they are connected to Bare Necessities. And Bare Necessities will post needs that professionals have for clients that they're working with, and that post goes out to the whole nonprofit community. For example, if you're working with someone who needs a pair of glasses but they can't afford it, and they need the glasses so that they can become employed at a particular agency, the professional might post that on Bare Necessities, and pretty soon they would get answers from other agencies, representatives from other agencies. They either have glasses or they have low-cost glasses or some kind of a help with that issue. Bare Necessities also allows nonprofit agencies and other agencies in Bexar County to advertise upcoming workshops at no charge. And also if agencies or organizations have anything they want to donate to a nonprofit organization, they can put that on Bare Necessities. So it really keeps everyone in that particular loop up to date on what's happening immediately in this community. In this community, we also have something called Crisis Intervention Team Training, and I understand that this is also nationwide, but here in San Antonio, in 2010, the San Antonio Police Department was the first police department in the United States to mandate crisis intervention team training for all of its officers. And this is a 40-hour training where police officers can go and they can learn how to respond in a compassionate way to an individual who is in the middle of a psychiatric crisis. And right now, Texas's first CIT Officers Association is coming into being, and I believe they're getting ready to have their very first meeting. And what their goal is they want to promote mental health education across the state of Texas in terms of law enforcement's interaction with people who are diagnosed with a mental illness. So it's a very exciting time to be in the police department because now they're including this compassionate care for individuals diagnosed with a mental illness. We also have in San Antonio something called the Haven for Hope. And the Haven for Hope is a transformational campus that for individuals who are homeless, and we do have a population of people who end up homeless with a diagnosis of mental illness. But they are a campus that's similar to a university campus where they have everything that a person would need to transform their lives is available to them right there on that campus. And the exciting thing about Haven for Hope is that they've just opened up 80 beds for men who have a diagnosis of mental illness and are homeless. So they will have an opportunity through the Haven for Hope to completely transform their lives at the Haven. We have also in Texas the Hog Foundation for Mental Health. The Hog Foundation for Mental Health is really helpful in terms of putting out opportunities for research that is going to benefit individuals in the treatment of individuals with mental illness. They also have information and brochures and pamphlets and other helpful items for those of us working in the field. Via Hope Texas mental health resource is another exciting resource here in Texas. Via Hope it's a combined effort between Mental Health Texas, NAMI Texas, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, the Texas Department of State Health Services, and the purpose of Via Hope is to provide training. They'll provide training for family members who want to learn how to deal with mental illness in an effective way once it comes into their lives. They have training for individuals who have a diagnosis of mental illness who want to move forward in their recovery. It's certified peer recovery specialist training is what it's called. And so people with the illness now can get that specialized training, and then they can go and become employed at various agencies so that that peer-to-peer connection can be made. Because sometimes people say, if you've been through it, then you have a different understanding than if you haven't been through it. And so lots of free training is available for folks who want to move forward in their recovery through Via Hope. And then, of course, every state has some form of a Department of State Health Services where people can go online and they can learn about the laws that are related to mental health issues in their state. They can learn about what's coming up, public meetings, anything they really want to know. They can really get involved through their state Department of State Health Services. And there's also information and brochures that people can download from the state website. Okay, so let's talk now about national agencies and organizations doing great things. We've talked about individuals doing great things and local agencies and organizations, and we have some really great national agencies and organizations as well. Most of you have probably heard of NARSAD. Well, NARSAD changed its name. It's now called the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation. And the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation does a considerable amount of research to help promote evidence-based practices in the field of mental health, and they have a really great website I would encourage all of you all to explore. Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance, Mental Health America, National Alliance on Mental Illness. These are organizations that pretty much will have a local affiliate in many areas across the United States. And so in order to get connected with that local affiliate, a person can go to the national website that's listed there and then find the local affiliate in their area and find out how you can help these organizations, because these organizations are there to help advocate and educate and promote recovery for individuals and their families diagnosed with mental illness. We also have the National Institute of Mental Health and SAMHSA. Both of these organizations have an incredible amount of information on the website. They have lots of brochures about any type of disorder that someone would like to learn something about. They have kits on there to help a community get started. They have toolkits if you want to start something in terms of mental health resource in your community. There might be a toolkit available. They keep the national statistics if you want to know what the stats are in terms of mental illness in this country. Lots of great information. And then, of course, we have NeedyMeds. And NeedyMeds, I have been working with NeedyMeds for a while. And NeedyMeds it's just absolutely incredible what they're doing at NeedyMeds. And some of you are already familiar, I'm sure, with NeedyMeds. But if you're not, NeedyMeds it's a nonprofit organization, which I always like to tell people. It's a nonprofit organization. Nobody's making money from what they're doing. But it's an organization that is simply there to help people with the high cost of medications. And they've branched out, and they have a lot of other things on their website. I would really encourage you to go to their website. But that's what they started with. So if there's an FDA-approved medication in the United States that has a discount, it's going to be listed on the NeedyMeds website. And the discounts are going to be listed in chronological order. So they go all the way from free because companies like for people to continue taking their medication. And so there might be an application on there, depending on the person's socioeconomic status, they might be able to get medications for free for a long period of time. And that would be the first application that's listed. If it's not for free, then the person can scroll on down, and eventually they might be able to even find a coupon, a one-time use coupon that would help them to pay for their medication. They also have on that website cards, prescription drug discount cards that a person can print out and take to the pharmacy and use it immediately. And then in the meantime, contact NeedyMeds and ask them to send you a plastic card that's going to fit very nicely in your wallet or your purse. You can present it every time you go to the drugstore. So it saves the community, it saves the United States. Elizabeth would have the exact number, but I know it's millions of dollars that they've saved the United States. And in our community here, through the distribution of the NeedyMeds drug discount card, we've already saved them close to $20,000 just in a few months that we've been distributing the card. So it's really an excellent service to the community, an excellent resource to know. And like I say, there's much more on that website than what I've shared with you. It's really worth sitting down and exploring for quite some time. Okay. I've given you a little bit about my experiences and my approach to getting connected with community resources, and we talked a little bit about the importance of recognizing that people are our greatest resource, and I shared with you some of the things that people are doing, and then we talked a little bit about local agencies and organizations, national agencies and organizations. And now I'm real interested in hearing what you have to say. I'd love to hear what you're doing in your community. How do you foster and support resources in your area? What types of innovative programs do you have in your community? And how do you support those community resources? And in your opinion, what's the most important takeaway message about community resources that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, and I did mention at the beginning of the presentation that you can type into the questions bar, the chat panel. We do have the ability to individually unmute people. So if you do have a longer thing you want to talk about in the work that you're doing in mental health, if you want to type into the questions of the chat panel, I can unmute people one at a time as well. So that's also an option. And also, I think any questions you have for Dianne as well, you can also go ahead and start asking those. And in the meantime, Dianne, did you want to give your contact information?
Sure.
There you go. It's all prepared. And there was okay.
I'd love for this to be an opportunity for us to connect and to keep on sharing and to keep on having those wonderful ideas. I just think that's a very exciting way to approach community resources.
Well, there is a question for the email address. We have that up. And again, if you do want to share the work that you're doing, just go ahead and type into the questions or chat panel, and I can unmute you so we can hear about your work or any questions that you have. I guess in the meantime, I can also go ahead and give my contact information in case you look over the NeedyMeds website, have any specific questions about NeedyMeds. Unfortunately, won't have it up on the screen, but pretty easy. My email address is just elizabeth@needymeds.org. So that's ELIZABETH@needymeds.org. And then we do have a phone number here at the office if you have any questions, again, about NeedyMeds. And that's 978-281-6666. One more time, that's 978-281-6666. So yeah, definitely if you have any questions about NeedyMeds or do you want to send out any of the cards that Dianne mentioned. I also do hold regular bi-monthly webinars. If you do want to learn more about NeedyMeds, we'll go over the resources during those sessions that you can register by visiting our homepage. Okay. So there was a question, Dianne, about programs for veterans and their families. Any advice on that?
Well, the hospitals, the VA hospitals in this area have a lot of programs going on, a lot of innovative programs going on. And if that person would like to send me an email, I can send them a contact name and information for the VA, and he can or she can speak directly with that person.
Okay, great. So you should see Diane's email still up there. And that was Bob who's going to be sending you an email about that. There's also a question about getting the material after the fact. I do believe Dianne will have her presentation available, so you can just email her directly to get the PowerPoint. Is that correct, Dianne?
Yes. And
okay.
I also wanted to, back to the question about the VA, about veterans, I would encourage people to contact Dr. Michelle D. Sherman at the Oklahoma City Veterans Affairs Medical Center. And if you put in SAFE, SAFE program, and Dr. Michelle D. Sherman, you'll get a lot of helpful information for working with individuals diagnosed with a mental illness and their families specifically.
Okay, great. Were there any other questions? We'll give people another minute just to type in anything that they have questions about. There was a question early on about what SES stands for. Was that in one of your first slides, Dianne?
Oh, socioeconomic status. I'm sorry.
There you go.
How much money someone has, basically.
Okay, again, we'll give everyone just another minute to type in questions. Otherwise, I know that both Dianne and I really appreciate you taking the time to attend this webinar, and we hope that it was helpful for you and you learned some new things about how to find mental health resources and what's out there. Doesn't look like there are any more questions.
Well, I'd like to, if anyone thinks of any questions or if you'd like to contact me, I'd really encourage you to do that, and I look forward to hearing from you. I appreciate this opportunity very much, Elizabeth, and thank you so much.
Yeah, and we really appreciate you here at NeedyMeds, you taking the time to present for us. So definitely contact Dianne with any questions about her presentation. Contact me with any questions about NeedyMeds, and I hope you have a great rest of the afternoon. So thank you very much.
Thank you.